Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we're checking out Juvenile Power Fantasy, a mod by Kinsie, a name you may recognize from other mods such as Realism and Meta Doom. As you can imagine, this means we're in for a fair degree of polish here, not to mention a gameplay experience that's a little out of the ordinary, something easily demonstrated by the melee option here, which yes, if you missed it, involved me pummeling an enemy to death while also flipping the bird, something that gave me much joy the first time round and just kept delivering, because if I ever get close enough, you'll notice that subsequent pummelings will also involve items such as steel chairs and occasionally a baseball bat. I've even seen a boxing glove in there somewhere, but again, it relies on you being able to get close enough to deliver those blows, and you'll find that they can occasionally be quite tough because enemies here in Juvenile Power Fantasy are quite amped up from their vanilla counterparts. Basically, it means that the title of this mod is a little bit of a misnomer. It may be juvenile, but I wouldn't regard it as a power fantasy, and that's because rooms are sparsely populated to say this one can still take chunks out of your health bar if you're not careful about how you approach them. Mercifully, however, enemies are all projectile-based, so it'll come down to dodging bullets and making sure you don't kill yourself from rocket launcher splash damage. Don't be like Icarus, kids. Don't be like Icarus. Another thing that may occasionally catch you off guard here is the fact that you will need to reload the vast majority of the weapons in Juvenile Power Fantasy. That is, of course, if you're playing on default settings. If you mess around with the mutators that are available in this mod, you can in fact disable that option completely, allowing you to blast away to your heart's content. But personally, I feel like the mod loses a certain something without that option active. There's just something that feels more satisfying about keeping track of how many bullets you've got left, reloading at just the right time, and being well prepared for a big encounter. Also, the tension of running into a room, forgetting completely to do all of the above, and having to duck back out real quick before you die to a hail of bullets to the face. Now, another interesting thing about this mod, more in relation to the shotguns than anything else, is that you have to drop one before you can pick up the other, and that's because they both occupy the same weapon slot. Now, this leads to a pretty interesting dilemma. Now, under normal circumstances, there'd be no good reason to not use the super shotgun for the rest of the game, but here, the situation is a little different. Those more aggressive and quicker paced enemies are more readily able to exploit that gap in the reload, even if it is pretty much identical to the vanilla super shotgun reload. Couple that with the default manual reload here, and if you've got a group of enemies facing you, you're going to have a bit of a tough time. That said, however, you can use it to shotty jump as well, which is just fantastic. Imagine all of the benefits of a rocket jump without the self-damage. It's a toughie. It's a real tough choice, but when it comes down to taking out multiple enemies in a confined space, I think I just prefer the fire rate of the standard shotgun here over the super shotgun. I mean, sure, it's great when it comes to sheer stopping power against some of the bigger stuff, but I want something a little bit more reliable in my encounters here, and for these maps, which are just standard Doom 2 maps, you need that speed, you need that ability to react. So yeah, like I said, it's an interesting dilemma. In keeping with the overall tactical theme at play here, the chain gun replacement appears to be an FN SCAR assault rifle, which is a pretty neat gun, but, you know, it's a gun. It's an assault rifle. It spits bullets at a reasonable rate. It's not exactly setting my world on fire, but when it comes to the weapons here, they're pretty straightforward. They do exactly what you'd expect them to do. What was slightly less expected, however, was the cacodemons, which, firstly, meow, which is weird, and secondly, belch, which is also weird. So much so that, combined with their aggression here, it actually threw me off a little and resulted in a meowing, belching death, which is something you'll see quite often, maybe not with the meowing or the belching, but you'll be seeing that screen on the regular all the same. So yeah, if it hasn't quite sunken in yet, Juvenile Power Fantasy is a really goddamn challenging gameplay mod, one that'll really force you to reassess those familiar levels and encounters, and really force you to make good use of what's available, power-ups included. And here we've got a few unique ones, such as the adrenaline pills, which will slow down time a little bit so you can get a few volleys in on some unsuspecting enemies. We've also got the chick orb, as I call it, which you can see in the bottom left, which will actually reset you to the starting position position on the map, useful if you want to make a quick getaway from a crowded area. We've got stem cells, which essentially replaces the soul sphere, and then we've got this particular power-up. This is known as Pure Rock Fury. It seems to combine haste and berserk, and also plays a guitar riff every time you hit an enemy in the face, be it with your fists or with a projectile. It's pretty friggin' badass. And if anything, it finally allows you to fulfill the promise of the title. It fully allows you to indulge in that juvenile power fantasy. But the key to this is that this power-up doesn't seem to be overused, at least not in the Doom 2 levels that I played. It's something that only pops up on a rare occasion, and when you finally do get it, it's just a real nice blast of catharsis. While I'm at it, I might as well draw attention to the plasma gun here, which has a pretty cool redesigned sprite and a really satisfying reload animation. I can't quite put my finger on why I like it so much, but it just works for me. You may also notice that the fire rate here is fairly slower than its vanilla counterpart, but it still feels powerful. It's got a nice punch to it when you fire it, which is really damn satisfying. And that right there kind of sums it up for me. It's a real damn satisfying mod to play, both in the way it feels and the challenge that it presents you. I feel one of the things I enjoy most about this mod though is just the underlying layer of weird that runs through it. From the alternate enemy noises, to the weird attack that Lost Souls do, to the fact that your arms just flail all over the place when you do melee attacks. It certainly helps lend a much more light-hearted feel to the proceedings, whereas other mods may trade on the brutal difficulty of the proceedings. This one offsets it, and it means that I'm more willing to come back to it even if it's intent on stomping my face in every now and again. That said, it does give you ample opportunity to be the one doling out the stompings. It's tough but fair in that regard, and with that in mind, I introduce you to the BFG replacement. It's a box. What's in the box, I hear you ask? Well, if you ignore the description at the top left, you'll be surprised to learn that this particular box is very important. This particular box is in fact the Ark of the Goddamn Covenant. Yep, it's pretty much full of ravenous demon-hating ghosts, and wouldn't you know it, we've got a buffet of demon scum here just waiting to be rent asunder by our ghostly chums in the box here. Yeah, it's silly, but wonderfully so, and one of my favorite things about it, apart from the fact that it spews forth an army of goddamn ghosts, is the text messages above the ammo counter in the bottom right, where occasionally it'll just say, "Error, too spooky." If you somehow manage to tire of the challenge that Juvenile Power Fantasy has to offer you, you can always fiddle with the Mutaters, changing things like your health multiplier, enemy attributes, or giving yourself some co-op buddies such as puppies. In this case, you can have a maximum of 4, and if you think these are just a random joke item, you haven't seen these guys in action, because good grief, these good boys will rip your enemies apart. Who's a good boy? Who's good boys? Plural. We got 4 of these buggers, and they will murder everything in sight for you. The only thing you'll really need to look out for here if you've got this mode enabled is the fact that your doggy chums can in fact kick the bucket, so really this turns into an interesting spin on the old escort mission, only the things that you're escorting are probably more lethal than you are. Oh yeah, I should probably mention that this mod also fully supports Heretic. So if you ever fancy blasting through the realms of the Serpent Riders with tactical weaponry and maybe the occasional box full of ghosts, you can fully well go ahead and do so. I haven't quite discovered all of the quirks of playing through Heretic with this mod as of yet, but I can assure you it's well worth the trip, and if you stick around and follow the progress of this mod, you may find in future that it will be supported by Hexen, Strife, and even Chex Quest. So yeah, that's Juvenile Power Fantasy for you, a tremendously solid Doom gameplay mod that I really have to recommend. It was just a tremendous amount of fun for me to play. And I can only hope that you guys get as much fun out of it as I did. And if you're interested, the link, as usual, is in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.